Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 286. For today's show, we will be going over and recapping some of the 9.2 news, which includes a lot of different models to have a look at. We will also, of course, look at other news outside of the game. For example, the workplace update that we have with ABK and everything else that's been going on in the past week. Before we get into anything though, let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Annie, or also known as Annie Fuchsia, and I'm mainly a streamer on Twitch, playing loads of games as much as I can. My co-host is, as usual, the very lovely and very talented Wowhead site director, Perculia.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. As Annie said, I'm Perk. I run Wowhead, so I oversee a lot of vision things for the site, like the direction the news and guides and features should go in. Sometimes we are joined by Brightpaw, who is my very opinionated cat on feral druid things. And yeah, we were off last week with American Thanksgiving, but we are back. And we have a lot of data mining updates to discuss. Stefan did a great job of finding everything last week. And then I believe when we did the show last time, the Wall Street Journal article had just hit about Activision Blizzard, which was very chaotic
Yep.
and upsetting. And there's been a lot of fallout and updates in the aftermath of those revelations. So we will go over some of those as well. So there's been a huge amount of data mining news, so we're not going to highlight every little thing, but the stuff that fits the show the best, like models or like really interesting speculation things. But you
Mm-hmm.
can scroll back on Wowhead's news site and find many more
All the
topics
articles.
discussed on the site.
Yeah, we try to just pick the topics that are easy to show and interesting to see at a glance, even. But then there is many detailed articles on all sorts of things on Wowhead itself.
Right,
So
Pug,
yeah,
you want to say
let's.
1, 2, 3?
Yeah, meow. Let's jump into models straight
Yeah.
away. I think that's a good way
Mm-hmm.
to start the show with
Yeah.
visuals. And one of the most talked about visuals is the new Sylvanas model.
Yeah, so as we speculated last time, remember in that Eternity's End preview, there was that unarmored elf in the footage of the Endwin scene, and we
Yep.
speculated it was Sylvanas because it had the similar shirt details. And yeah, that turns out to be the case. We have Sylvanas now in her armor removed, so she's no longer wearing the influence of the Jailer's Maw armor. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's interesting because I wonder if she has any of her powers left, or if she is just like a normal elf now. She looks
Yeah.
very vulnerable. She doesn't have her bow. She doesn't have like all of her spiky armor. And maybe
Yep.
that's meant to reflect how the character like can't hide behind things now, and there'll be some uncomfortable conversations about what she did when working with the jailer.
Yeah,
Like it's
I'm
very
actually
symbolic.
really. I'm very very curious about this because, like you said, this is a full on stripped power and look, appearance, everything. The armor is gone. The arms are bare. What she's
Like a
wearing
level
is
one.
very thin. Yes, yes. She got stripped off her levels. She's now level one,
Yeah.
and everything about her looks like she's as if she's been in jail, for the past 5 years. So I think it's really interesting to see that this has happened just past one patch. I'm curious about how this will be presented because it's very dramatic. It's a very dramatic transition from what she was before to what she is now, and also very interesting to know indeed if she's also potentially lost her powers because she was weaponless in the cutscene that we saw as well,
Mm.
and yeah, everything about her seems very bare. So I'm very
Yeah.
curious.
She also has blue eyes in this model, and there's
Mm-hmm.
no version of this model with red eyes. So that would imply that her soul is fully back, that she's not realigning with the jailer, that she's, how she is at the end of Sanctum of Domination is how she is now. So she's like fully back to her balanced self. Her eyes are staying blue. That wasn't like a temporary thing. Um,
Yeah, and that's also a an interesting topic of conversation as well,
mhm.
because what does this mean for us, or for her rather? What does this mean for her? How much of her have we known, and what state is she going back to? Who is Sylvanas? Who was kind of, affected by the jailer, and who is her herself?
Yeah. Like, it seems that with all these reveals, even when we thought Sylvanas was, quote, herself in early WoW, like before Edge of Night and the deal with the jailer, it seems like
Yep.
she was still being subtly influenced by him, that she never had her full soul. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
have we ever seen the true Sylvanas? Like for years, it seems that even when we thought she was authentic, she was still being manipulated in
Exactly.
a way which is
Yeah.
kind of sad to think about.
It
Um,
is. Yeah.
yeah.
But it also
Another
takes away a lot of
interesting,
personality. That's another thing that
yeah,
becomes a worrying thing, because then it's like, well, was she ever a person then? Or was she always just this manipulated thing? What if I liked her and her decisions, and now suddenly they weren't hers?
yeah. I mean, it was even to the point where back in Wrath, when when there was Shadowmourne and the guild would split up who got what rewards, I was like top on attendance or whatever, and I could pick, and I wanted out of the first round of rewards, I got the Sylvanas music box because I thought that she was like
Mmm,
really
a cool
cool and
character.
was trying to be like doing the best for her people and being loyal in spite of having this, transformation out of her control. And I just really liked what she represented. And then, yeah, and then Del Russell happened.
Yeah. Then post
um,
Legion
yeah,
happened.
yeah.
um.
Another
Yeah.
neat detail is, I don't know if you want to zoom in if it's possible, but if you look under her right eye, there is a scar on her chest, and I believe that
Mmm.
is the scar when the jailer, it lines up pretty well when the jailer sort of throws the rest of her soul at her and she like grasps her chest. um like that lines up pretty well.
I'm
I
I'm
don't
zooming
think
in now.
the
Yep, there it is.
yeah, yeah. And it's that same kind of blue that her eyes are and the blue of the soul shard.
It is.
So
Yep.
I believe it's that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there has been some discussion that you know, I hope people don't want it to retcon where Arthas had initially wounded her. Apparently that was like
Mm.
lower by her stomach. But
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm sure they'll reference it in some way. I do think it's interesting how now you see her with the Sour Fang scar on her face and then this other one at the same time.
Yeah,
Um,
on the chest.
reflecting her past, even if her appearance is really different now.
Mm-hmm.
How even though her soul is back, like I think having the scars is like a memory that sh- based on because of things she did in the past, she has these
Mm-hmm.
scars now, and she can't uh ignore that part of her legacy. Right,
Yeah. It's also interesting they still made her character, or I'm not sure if that's just
Mhm.
to be expected in these kind of
Mhm.
models that are data mined, but
Yeah.
her face still looks angry to me.
I mean, I'd be pretty angry if I thought I was in control, and then it turns out that my soul for the last 20 years was serving the jailer
Fair
who did not
enough.
have my best interest at heart.
Fair enough.
Um,
Fair enough.
I mean,
Uh,
I think it's her resting face. I do think that it's the model we see used for cutscenes, and she has been very, expressive in the cinematics with Anduin. So,
yeah.
you
I was
know,
just wondering if
yeah.
there could have been a possibility of her having that kind of ripped off and more into like a
Interesting.
sort of lost character, but it really doesn't
Right.
feel like a lost character. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't think it would be a good thing for her to sit there and be all innocent and lost. So maybe it's a
Right.
good thing that she keeps her angry face. It's just something I noticed while I was looking at the model.
Yeah, I think we covered it last show, but I believe one of the lore interviews before the PTR came out was talking about how Sylvanas and Tyrande have another confrontation, and Sylvanas is like very changed now. But like they
Mm-hmm.
are going to have a confrontation. So if anything, I think that she looks wiser, and I think it's good that she sort of has like a proud disposition with her face, because it's like in spite of the armor being stripped, like she's still herself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, she definitely is still
like
herself. Yeah.
yeah. So I think it's an interesting model. I will be curious, to see how she's used in the patch. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and if not wearing the Maw armor was her choice, or if when she was put in prison, they were like, no, we're not giving you any spikes or jailer's magic. So I wonder
Yeah.
how this transformation will come across, and I'm sure it will be discussed in that book as well that's coming out next year, if it's all from her point of view.
Yeah. Do we know when that story is going to be placed?
I believe it's coming out at the end of March because
Mm-hmm.
of shipping delays, which is a thing. I actually ordered books that were meant to arrive 2 weeks ago, and due to delays, they haven't arrived at the
Yeah, due to
bookstore
pandemic and
yet.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of the story that's written in the books, is it meant to cover what happens after Sanctum of Domination? Just as a
I
reminder,
believe it's
because
like, yeah,
mm-hmm.
I believe it's spanning everything.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Up. I'm not sure if it's past Sanctum of Domination, but the description says, um, at as her moment of victory draws near, Sylvanas will make a choice that may ultimately come to define her. So
Interesting.
I assume the choice is shooting the arrow at the jailer. um,
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm.
but
Could
I
also
also
be
think
forcing Enduin.
it could be. But
Mm.
I think it would be smart with how ambiguous Sylvanas has been portrayed in the game, and how people have been confused by the cutscenes, to explain more in the book instead of less.
Yeah,
Just
I
so
agree.
like people are crystal clear on what's going on in 292, so it's not like, oh well, this explained 90%, but even though you read the book, you have to
Yeah.
like read this other fairy tale or read this other thing to understand. I think that especially with Blizzard's like reliance on these sort of like unreliable or biased narrators, like, oh, Varisa dreamed about Sylvanas, like, was this real, was she
Mm-hmm.
sentimental? I think it's good to just be like, here's the definitive book, and this is what happened from that character's point of view, so
Yeah.
you can like, it's easier to believe one narrator instead of being like, oh well, this grimoire is written from the point of view of like a broker, and
Mm-hmm.
this is from a dream, and it's just, like what do you believe when there's so many different narrators and they're trying to like hint that some of them
Yeah.
might not be totally accurate or have a full sense of what's going on.
Yeah, it's like if we're getting information where all the sources are biased, then it starts feeling a bit like, well, what was the point of any of it if I can't find out exactly what's happening? But yeah, I think. Wait, actually, yeah, no, that was it in terms of Sylvanas models. Wait, are you gone? Can you hear me? Am I still streaming? I think we lost Perk here. I think I am still live. I'm gonna take a look to see what's going on. In the meantime, I'll let you guys stare at Sylvana's body. Here. Okay.
Cool.
No more Sylvanas for you guys. You're back to
Yeah.
us now.
Yeah. We are
Yeah.
back to another model that we had, which is very different from Sylvanas. Um,
Yep.
yeah, we have the Incubus model,
Yeah,
who,
there it is. Which has been praised a lot.
yeah, it is a new glyph appearance for the Succubus Warlock pet, and, I think for what it's meant to be, it, it's, it gets the job done. It is, a scantily clad, male demon that is like the Succubus, and, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that we discussed in the past how we prefer when Blizzard takes this approach to making things more inclusive instead of taking things away. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they didn't remove the succubus and instead they added in this alternate model.
Yeah, I think it's
So
awesome. Honestly, people have been asking for male versions of a succubus for the longest time, and it was uh, it was teased or not teased, but it was
yeah.
mentioned a few times, but it never really it was never really done,
Mhm.
and so it's nice to finally see it here. And honestly, with this, I kind of want an updated, like res update of the original one as well, because this one just looks
Yeah.
so much better now. So I want the female one to also be updated to look as good as this.
Yeah, I think the female one got updated a few expansions ago. I think I want to say Legion because that's when there were so many demon updates, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, graphics have come a long way since then and like just
Yeah.
the texturing is really good, like the uh like sort of a natural effect on the hands and legs,
Mm-hmm.
like the pebbled skin and
Mm-hmm.
like the jewelry has so much
Yep.
detailing. So, yeah. Uh
Yeah, it
definitely
looks
think
really good.
that yeah, I think that this was a really good solution to the critique that it, you know, felt a little lacking to only have a female succubus. So I think something like this was very cool, and you can tell the artist had fun with it. So uh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Oh, look, it sounds
more
like you're
inclusivity.
disappearing.
Oh no, what is
Maybe
going on?
the male succubus is stealing all your internet. Okay, could you say something?
Test.
Yeah, I think it's okay now.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I think it's okay now.
Um,
But yeah, no,
cool.
indeed, I think it's a really nice path of if worried about over sexualizing women, if instead of removing a bunch of sexualization, if we can add sexualization to make it um, more even and
Mhm.
on the playfield by adding male bodies like this, I think that's great.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, if something is sexual, we must automatically punish it and, you know, be like very
Mm-hmm.
Puritan. It's like, you know, if we're going to have that, we should just celebrate it on all types of body forms.
Mm-hmm.
And then it feels more equal. So,
Yeah, exactly.
um
But yeah, I think
going
that's
back
it
more
on the special
on the other
individual
scantily clad
models.
models. Yeah. So we've had Sylvanas and this Incubus that are not wearing very elaborate armor, but we are now going to look at the mythic versions of all the tier sets coming in patch 9.2,
Yeah.
um, which are pretty interesting. Um, they are yeah, let's go through them one by one if that's cool, because I think we did that for patch 9.1 and
Mm-hmm.
people like that more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Should we start with
first up
Death Knight?
yeah.
All right, let's pull it
So I
out.
believe the idea for all these sets was to have class fantasy elements, but give it like a progenitor Titan prototype thing. So like everything is more angular and a little more abstract than the fantasy sets we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I do have to say that the mythic version with the extra glow effects and the color combinations when it's not white on beige, like the official preview, makes them look a lot better. Um,
Oh yeah, it's a
so
big
yeah,
improvement from what we
yeah.
saw
So
before.
definitely. Um, looking at the Death Knight set, I mean, you can see that there's a stylized skull, the stylized horns, and then like the skull effects on the shoulders, like other Death Knight sets have, and lots of chains. You know, also from Death Knights, but it does sort of have more of a Titan feel, like looking at that big, you know, bulky belt or uh, I
Yeah.
don't know, like the wristbands on it. It kind of
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of a monk set or like the warrior bladed shoulders. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like the skull kind of reminds me of a panda face. Um, but I
Yeah, it's
get what they're
actually
going
true.
for. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about it which, and I guess we're probably gonna be saying it, or I'm probably gonna be saying it a lot
Hmm.
as we look at these sets. I feel a little bit like they might have gone a little bit too much towards this whole Titan sort of look,
Yeah, I
um,
agree.
to not make things too recognizable to what class they are. I mean, in this case, for example, like you said, it does have the detail of the skull, but I think they
Hmm.
could have included it more around the whole hood area as well, and I'm not sure if it needed to have such bright colors either. I think it could have gone with a bit of a darker shade. Maybe didn't need all the silvery details, for example, that much. To just give it a bit of a darker feeling, because right now it feels a little bit like it's mixed with a paladin of sorts, and
Yeah,
it
I
feels
think
kind
the
of strange.
coloration,
Mm-hmm.
I think the coloration is an issue. I think in the past, when there were class tier sets, the colors were also chosen to complement each class. So it wasn't like,
Exactly.
oh,
Yeah.
this is the heroic set, everyone's going to be like blue, for example. It was like,
Yeah.
well, blue could fit like the priest in Black Temple, but the warrior onslaught set should be brown instead. Like the colors also were chosen to represent the class, and I think this color scheme doesn't really feel very Death Knight. Like the
No,
color,
I
the Death
agree.
Knight should be
Mm-hmm.
like a blood color, a frost color, an unholy color. I think that would have been um more hype if this was like a kind of blue gray background. But
Mm-hmm.
so I
Yeah,
feel like
exactly.
they were trying to do class theme sets that also were like progenitor transmog sets, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't think it need. I think the gold is just throwing me. I think that if this was like a nice blue silver set, or like green black, or like different shades of red and a gray set, I think that would have fit a lot better.
That's
And
actually true.
yeah,
At
and to be
first, I
fair,
thought the
like
silver is too
yeah,
bright, but you're right. If the gold is
yeah,
removed, the silver could stay together with the darker
yeah.
colors. And yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
We have been data mining other colors for these and some fit better, but I think that if you force like all six colors to work for all classes instead of having each one be unique, then it gets a little it like it's some tints just don't fit certain classes.
It just won't work. Definitely. And as we will look at the rest of these, you guys will probably see what we mean with it. But I think they should. I mean, I'm glad to see tier sets come back. But I hope that they will look into it more. To go back to how they used to do things, like you mentioned, with all the different classes having their own color schemes. Because we saw this trend with Azerite armor and other things too, where all the cloth is wearing the same thing, and then all the
Mhm.
mail is wearing the same thing, all the plate is wearing the same thing, and then all three kind of have like similarities with each other.
Right.
And maybe it sounds cool in theory to have everything be reminding of what raid it's from or what expansion it's from, but people just want to look like their class, you know? That's the
Right.
most important thing. Maybe you want to add some small little detail that reminds you of where they are. Maybe only the belt, maybe a small thing on the side or something. But overall, it should scream more the class and
Oh, I just
less
had a
where
fun
it's from.
idea.
Mm-hmm.
What if um so like what if each class had its own like color schemes that made sense? And then
Mm-hmm.
if you like did an achievement in the raid or something, you could unlock a tint that is like the progenitor tint. So like,
Yeah.
you get this super metallic thing and it's like if
Mm-hmm.
you want your armor to look like it's been touched by this tier, you can have
Yeah.
it, but the basics should be colors that make sense for that class specifically.
Absolutely agree. I think that would be awesome. Because that also gives you two different versions that make sense. One that
Mhm.
makes you represent your class, and one that makes you represent where what tier it is, or what rate it is, what expansion it is. Because another thing is, sure, we'll get recolors with the lower difficulties, but all of those normally look really bad. They
Yeah,
normally
they like
remove
get
the
rid of the glow
glow.
effects. Yeah.
Yeah, get rid of the glow effect, make everything else look more washed. So those recolors don't count. But if they could have
Hmm.
this recolor for a special one that you can unlock to make you look like you're from this raid, and then the original one be what the class fancy would make sense with, I think that would actually be very nice. I think that would be really
Yeah.
cool to have.
Oh, I just noticed that if you look at the gloves, that they've got little bones on the fingers. And like
Yeah,
that to me is an interesting detail, but like you just it's just lost by
it's
these
too
like
small.
massive gold
Yeah.
shoulders. So
Yeah, I didn't even see the skull at first on on the shoulders until you mentioned
yeah.
it, and it's those type of details that should be the most
Mm.
sticking out. And then on the small side, the the hints of where it's from.
Yeah. Like I think that the subtle like if you look at the gold with the belt, it's got those lines, and I think that's like a neat progenitor
Mm-hmm.
Titan nod,
Mm-hmm.
like the geometry
Mm-hmm.
effect.
Mm-hmm.
Um but you could just have that on a regular glove. You don't need like the extra thing over the glove or like the warrior blades on it. But
Yep. Agreed.
yeah, so I think I agree with you that a lot of these sets are like I see what they're trying to do, but people have been so hungry for sets with class elements that I think dialing down the Titan stuff as well as
Mm-hmm.
doing the class themed colors makes more sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean,
Like,
most of the
yeah,
favorite sets that people have are all from specific tier sets that have very specific class looks, right? Even the
yeah,
challenge mode sets, they're very different
yeah,
from each other.
like even the Mage Tower recolors, people are really excited about them because they're like, oh, like this one, like the preset, I can finally get a shadow looking preset. It's purple, or it's like, oh, the
Mm-hmm.
Mage set is pink. That's arcane. Like people are really excited that the certain colors represent their class.
Yeah. And that's a good
And these
point too.
sets,
People
yeah,
have specific class colors, and then on top of that, they also have spec colors. Like there's so much
yeah,
to play around with. Going for the raid color should not be a
yeah.
priority, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we should look at the Demon Hunter one next because I think that proves the point really well.
Yeah, let me open it up here. Demon Hunter. I have a bit of cat aggro here. There we go.
Oh no.
Here we go. Um, yeah, so as you can see, the colors are repeated, similar colors to before. We have the gold, we have a bit of silver, a bit of black, brown, red, and I think this one
Super
looks,
glowing light
yeah,
shoulders.
yeah. I like this one better. It still doesn't really, for me, it feels more like a sort of hunter set. I don't know. There's something about it that does not feel like Demon Hunter for me, except for the horns that sort of look like they're coming from the eyes. Um, it feels strange. Like it looks nice, but it doesn't feel like Demon Hunter.
Yeah,
How do you feel about it?
first so I think that the pointed shoulders kind of remind me of the wardens from Legion. Like
Mm-hmm.
like how they're rounded but have the points at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how the leg wrappings are simple, and I think the belt is cool. But
Yeah, I like the belt.
I think the
Mm-hmm.
biggest issue is that the glowing effects. I like how the shoulders curve up because that will look really cool with warglaves, and I like the floating blade effect, but the light just feels so weird, especially because when I think light, you think Illidan disintegrating that Naru who was all like, join the light, be pure. So it just feels
Yep.
like a really weird color to have as a demon hunter
Yep.
representing your class fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not saying that every demon hunter needs to have like, fell green and that's it, but I think that this is just such a like this is the color you think of the least when you think of demon hunter.
Yeah,
Um
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
and like they've done really fun glowing weapons tied to the artifacts, so you could do other
Mm-hmm.
colors, but this like no warclave is gonna match this. It's so random. Like it doesn't match the artifact tints. It's just like,
Yep.
oh look, bright yellow. This goes well with your, vivid purple or red or blue or green. It's just like it just doesn't go with anything.
Yep. No, that's a good point too, because if it also feels odd for your class, it's also going to be hard to make it match with things, because yeah, this looks like a lighted demon hunter, so it's not really what you would think of when you first think of a demon hunter.
Yeah. So Bright Puck clearly has thoughts because he's rubbing his head against the mic.
If you
Um.
remove like the horns and stuff and just look at the shape, I mean
Mhm.
the colors and general shape of the armor and everything, for me it feels more like a hunter, or even a druid,
I think
more
kilt
like a
would have
demon
helped.
hunter.
I mean, I think that if there was like a pants option and a kilt option, that would be cool because I think that I like some of the things going on with the boots. like how the feet kind of have like a horned demon effect. But I do think that uh like the demon hunter silhouette is to have like that tight fitting chest piece with the kilt that flares out, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have been a cool opportunity, and it would have been like a wow factor. Like these leggings here kind of feel like what you'd see like a cloth caster wear underneath an elaborate robe. Um
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think that because the demon hunter chest is purposely kept kind of simple with like a cropped midriff, that the silhouette, you especially when you have big shoulders, that you kind of need that long dramatic kilt to balance out
Mm-hmm.
the shoulders flaring out and the horns.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that would set it apart from a hunter, because hunters historically have like, like a chest piece and pants. So I think the demon hunter, to emphasize it's different, should have a kilt.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Actually, I think that might be exactly why I'm thinking it's a hunter. It feels like that's the armor that a hunter would wear, and if you're not gonna let us have our own class fantasy colors, like give it fell for demon hunter, then maybe you need those shapes. Although I would say just give this a fell color look, and it would be better.
Yeah. I also think that like the stuff on the hips looks really cool, but that would also be filled out better with a kilt. Like they seem to
Mm-hmm.
sort of float too far out from the body, and I think that they would fill the space better if there was a kilt instead of the
Yeah,
pants.
I see what you mean. I honestly, I like the pants and the boots and the belt and everything. I actually like
Mhm.
how it looks like. I just don't like the colors for a demon hunter. I think
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. I like the details of the belt, matching with the those little things around the knees. Um, it looks nice and well put together.
Yeah.
It's
I
just the
think the
colors
red,
feel wrong.
yeah, I think that um the accent color being red, like it fits like the gems of like the demon hunter and sort of like their jewel tones.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the light, like even if they had the red coming up from the shoulders, I think that would fit a lot better than the gold.
That's a good point too. If they had done more red at the top, I think that would have worked better too.
And that could have given like a blood elf vibe, which makes sense with how demon hunters are blood elves. So like you could have like a, I don't know, purple one for night elves and then a red tint for the blood elves. But also
Mm-hmm.
just looking at it, I mentioned before how I like the shoes with like the hoof effect, and looking at the gloves, how they all have the capped fingers, like it's a demon with claws. So I think that's a neat
Oh
effect.
yeah, yeah, I like that.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's like the more when I look at the little details, I can, or if you look at the chest piece, it's got kind of that subtle effect like a tattoo on either side, like the curling effect. So when you
Oh
look at
yeah.
it closer,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, oh, like, this, like the fingertips are cool, or the echo on the chest piece is cool, like Illidari runes. But I think just from far away, the first thing you see are those light shoulders, and you're like, this is kind of, this is not Demon Hunter.
Yeah, this is odd.
Um, so it's like
Yeah.
all the little details, I think, um, have like some subtlety in them, and they're thought out, but it's just the colors kind of override you
Mm-hmm.
noticing those details at first.
Yeah, I think similar with the previous set too. The details
Yeah.
are actually very nice, and if you think about it, they remind a lot of the classes um,
Mm.
in question, but they kind of get hidden under all the colors and everything that's covering everything. And
Yeah.
also, I think it's mentioned in the chat again about how there's different colors for the tier sets.
Mhm.
The problem is, as we talked about a few minutes ago, that the recolors of the sets are normally really bad unless it's a recolor which comes from a different source like PvP of the
Mm.
similar look. Usually they're not good because the glow is usually taken away and the colors are usually more washed out, and it's just not usually anything that can compete with what the mythic set itself is.
Like, remember
That's
when there was a Sanctum of Domination sets, and everyone's like, "Oh, finally a good male set." It's dark, but it has these amazing neon accents, and then
yeah,
those just weren't present on most of the sets.
yep, yep, exactly.
um, So it's like I think the sets are designed to look complete with all the glowing effects, but then when you see them
When you remove
in
them,
game,
it's mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, I think the set should be designed to look strong as they are, without needing the extra special effects.
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, why don't we look at Druid next?
I think that sounds like a good idea. Let's get Druid up. Here we go. Are these feathers?
So I think they're meant to be like leaves or feathers, but because they're going for the progenitor appearance, it's like it kind of gives the impression like a titan was carving a tree from stone. So they look kind of like crystallized. They don't, it's like the prototype for a tree. It's like they haven't quite figured out what a tree is yet, but they were discovering leafy shapes. And
Yeah.
if you look
Okay.
at it from some directions, like you can see it kind of clearly from the back how some of the shoulder spikes look more translucent than others. My guess is that these are more glowing effects that would just be on the mythic variation. So like you'd have some spikes, but not all the spikes.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is the Druid set, and I don't really know where to start about what I think about this. So why don't you tell us if you've
Okay,
got any thoughts?
so I think I think all the I think that this one works better than some of the other sets because you can very clearly see the class elements. Like you have the helm that resembles antlers
Yeah.
and the bits that are the nature elements, like the sort of viney belt and the like stylized leaves, those are in a really bright contrasting color. So even though the colors to me are still a little off for druids, I can see the silhouette and be like, oh, I see how it's like druids but titans. So I think that the class fantasy elements come through more strongly on this one at first. You don't have to like squint and look for them. They're more easily apparent.
I think I can agree with that. So when I first looked at it, I saw feathers, and when you think of feathers, you think of something that is a bit bird-like, and druid definitely fits that.
Mm-hmm.
There's I think the robe itself, outside of those outside of the feathers, there isn't much going on, but maybe that's a good thing, because you have the
Yeah.
shoulders and around the glove area, the belt, which is quite detailed too because it goes down the
Mhm.
sides as well. It's quite a lot of detail that actually looks really cool. But there's just
Mhm.
something about the robe that makes me feel like maybe it's because it's on a human male.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
this
like
would
yeah,
look
that's kind
different.
of weird for druids. Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
mean, I
There's
kind of
something
like
about it
the
that looks a bit
effect
off.
that it's like, I don't know, like a progenitor was like, "Oh, let's create a druid. Let's, take someone in a normal person in a robe and let's add nature." Like the nature is sort of like exploding out from the robe and like changing the effect, which I think is cool.
I think I would
Um,
have liked to see more skin on the chest. Like it's a robe, right? But around the chest area, I think seeing more skin would make it feel more naturey.
Yeah, that's a good point because a lot of druid sets like do have a bit of an exposed chest, so I think that could make sense. So it's not like, oh, an overgrown mage.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe that's what it is. But yeah, the horns are definitely like antlers, like you said. Maybe it could have had some feathers up there too. But yeah, I think overall, I think it's okay. It feels like a druid. The robe underneath all the feather details looks a bit boring. I think it could have had a bit more,
Yeah,
maybe
or
a
I
bit more
think that
chest.
like the runes on it could be more class specific. Like the subtle demon hunter patterns look like the tattoo, but the druid thing is more just like, oh look, it's a shape. It doesn't really have as much meaning.
Because I wanted to feel like this druid is out in nature, and the feathers is perfect for that. But the
Hmm.
robe feels like it's winter time and it's wearing a lot of clothes.
I like how Brightpaw has come over for the druid set.
Purple is like, yes, take off more clothes. Let's go incubus size. No, but I think I think it's overall probably the best one that we've looked at so far.
Yeah.
There's something about it that feels a bit off, but I
Yeah,
might have
maybe
thought
it's human
differently if I
male.
saw it on a, yeah, I was gonna say, I think maybe if I saw this on like a female night elf, it would actually look really cool.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, let's look at Hunter next.
And colors, I think, are okay for a druid. And you could add, some green and stuff, but I think brown yellow
Yeah.
is okay. It works on a druid.
Yeah. All right, so the Hunter set. Um, the
Yes.
name of this set is the God Slayer set, which I think is funny because a lot of the Hunter sets are like, God Stalker, or it's always like it's some sort of stalker slayer related to
Mm-hmm.
the tier, related to some sort of animal, like Beast Stalker, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like, oh, we've gotten to the point where our character is now hunting gods, like like
Yeah. Yeah.
shows how powerful we've become. So it seems like this set definitely has some hunter aesthetics. Like you've got the scales, and you've got the like animal bone skull helm
Mm-hmm.
and super big shoulders. But it's interesting when you know the name because it's like the hunter is trying. The hunter is always sort of like wearing what it's trapped, and
Mm-hmm.
now it's trying to go after a god. So it's like, how do you show that the hunter
Mm.
is like defeating a god and wearing some of the elements on it?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the shoulders are kind of cool. How it's the floating gem. I think that's interesting.
Oh, it's floating. Yeah, I like that actually.
Yeah.
What are
Um,
these white
oh,
things?
I think just glow effects. Hopefully
Okay.
they're. I mean, I think they look cool coming from the gem, but if they remove them on other difficulties, I think that would be really sad.
Yeah. I don't know if it. To me, the glow effect doesn't feel very huntery.
Yeah. I guess they're trying to show like, oh, instead of the hunter wearing bones because they've trapped like, a
Mm-hmm.
Talbook, it's like, oh well, the hunter's wearing elements of the god,
Yeah.
cosmic, smoky stuff. Um, Maybe it also look more subtle in game. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I do like similar to the Death Knight how if you look at the gloves, it's like a bone effect on the fingers and wrists. I think that's neat.
Yeah, I agree. I like that
Um,
as well.
I also think there's a complaint that so many hunter sets are just brown that I think that it's also welcome to have this like very bright metallic hunter set for a change. Like I actually
Mm-hmm.
really like the red. I think the red and gold is a really neat contrast there.
I agree. I still do think it's a bit too many colors though. I think maybe the red and the gold looks nice, but then the gray and white on the robe, like the arms and
Yeah.
legs, feels a bit off somehow.
Yeah, maybe if they just like I think if they remove the lighter white, I think that could be interesting. And then if
Mm-hmm.
they had a glow
Yeah,
effect,
keep
it
the dark
wouldn't feel like
gray maybe. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's when you have the white and then the white effect and then the light gray um clothes, it almost feels
Mm-hmm.
like they're not matching, but they were meant to match.
Mm-hmm.
Um so
Yeah.
uh yeah.
I do think the helm and the shoulders look really cool. And I can imagine people using those pieces with a lot of other type of sets as well to make something look really cool. So even if people are
Yeah.
not fans of the legs and the chest, I think you can do a lot with the shoulders and the headpiece.
Yeah, definitely think it's one of the better hunter sets, and that's always had complaints that hunter sets can kind of fade into the background, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
um the gems especially look really cool, and
Mm-hmm.
people would want to do stuff with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Paw.
And honestly, having gloves that also have some effects like that is it does stick out quite a bit,
Yeah.
which is cool.
All right, so let's look at the mage set.
Mm-hmm. Here it is.
So my issue with this set is that it kind of feels like a preset with that coloration. Like I'm
Yep.
getting Scarlet Crusade vibes from it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess you could say, oh, mages always have like dramatic shoulders, and these are no
Yeah.
exception. But when you have glowing, holy looking shoulders, and that's what, you know, priests have, and you have the
Mm-hmm.
red hood, it just this doesn't really scream mage to me. I think it's another one of
No.
those classes where you
The
need
colors means
to
a lot.
do the colors
Mm-hmm.
like Death Knight to have it be
Mm-hmm.
thematic to get the point across. And I also don't know if it needs the hood. Like I know mages historically have like the elaborate collars, like tier 2, like and tier 1, tier
Yep.
4.
Yep. I was thinking
Where
the
like the
same
head
thing.
is exposed and it has like the big thing in the back. So
Yep.
maybe it doesn't need the hood.
Yeah, I I actually had pretty much very similar thoughts to what you had on this. I think the hood is unnecessary. Keep the collar because that's very
Mm.
mage-like. I have the thing that's behind the head, sort of floating. I think it's floating. I'm not sure. Maybe it's not floating, but whatever it is,
Sort of
I
float.
think that looks
Yeah.
cool. I think the shoulders can also be quite mage-like in in appearance, if it's not holy looking. The
Yeah.
fact that this whole set is white, gray, and a little bit of red makes it look wrong. If you imagine this set and just turn it into like a purple set, for example, immediately I would think mage. But I see these
Yeah.
colors and I think priest, and it's a shame because the that part of the helm actually looks like not too bad, and I'm sure the shoulders in game also wouldn't look too bad either. But the robe itself is quite boring. But if it had better colors, I think it could have worked. But right now it looks like a another priest robe.
Maybe the shoulders need like a little rock or something going around it too to get across that it's like the mage
That would be
manipulating the
cool.
elements.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of priests are just like, oh, look at this pretty glowy thing. But I think if like a
Mm-hmm.
mage had some sort of like, I don't know, floating shard or like icicle or just something showing how they're like taking an element instead of manipulating it to their will, I think that could be interesting.
I agree.
Uh,
Having small rocks that are like floating around the shoulders, I think that
yeah,
would be really cool indeed. I like that. But yeah, this
yeah,
is another great example, like you said, like the DK, where you kind of completely lose the feeling of the class because of the color. If you look into the
yeah.
details, yeah, sure, mages do tend to have those shaped shoulders or that shaped hood thing. I mean, the part that's going on behind the hood. But it gets lost in translation and just looks like a priest set of sorts because the color is just so off.
Yeah. So let's look at Monk next. As a disclaimer, the physics aren't totally working on this, so some of the things that are sticking out will flow better, like the ribbons and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
you can get most of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Um, I think I'm actually okay with the set.
yeah. I think that the colors work. You
Mm-hmm.
get the
They
prayer
work.
bead effect. You
Yep.
get the ribbon effect. You kind
Mm-hmm.
of get the tiger effect with the horns.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And Titan at the same
and
time with the symmetry
yeah,
on it.
I think this is a pretty good job, and even if you look at the Titan elements like the breastplate, um, the pattern on it, and the sides, like it still has a very monk feel to it. Um, so I think that this is one of the better sets of
Mm-hmm.
blending Titan with you know,
Yeah.
the class fantasy.
Yeah. I think I'm okay with it, and I like that it's also like it shows the arms. Like these type of things I think are really important. Classes that would sometimes
Very
be a
agile.
bit explosive. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That classes that are agile or wouldn't wear full on armor at all times. It looks cool when it shows that, because I think a little bit of it could feel a little bit heavy on the armor. So having the arms be bare, I think, is a nice middle ground there. And I think the legs
Yeah,
look
like
really
the
nice
Druid
too.
set. Yeah, like I
Yeah,
think I'm glad that this is lightly armored. I think the druid could have used a little more of that.
absolutely. Yeah, I think the druid could have had lesser armor as well. But I think
Yeah.
it looks nice. I think it feels like monk, like with the bands and stuff as well. So the shoulders are currently physics are off. It's not gonna be
Yeah.
like it looks like right now. They're not just gonna be straight upwards and stuck in air. I'm assuming those things might be maybe loose and hanging. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but I think it looks nice. I like it.
I also feel like the enough of the base details are cool to even if some things are removed,
Mm-hmm.
when it's not mythic difficulty, it still looks like a good class fantasy set. Like, the
That's a
prayer
good
beads look
point.
really
Yeah,
cool in a contrasting
yeah.
color and I can't see them removing the beads.
Yeah, no,
uh
you're right. This is one of those sets where if you remove that glow around the headpiece, it would still look full and not suddenly empty or naked.
yeah.
I see a few people saying that this looks like a plate set, and I definitely see what you mean. Like the shoulders have like the double layer. The arms are a little bit heavy as well, and the legs are a little bit heavy. But I think the fact that you know the hands are bare, the arms are bare, the feet are a little bit bare. I
You
think
have
it
the
kind of
string
makes
and
up
ribbon.
for it. Yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
have the ribbons. I think it works, but I do see what people mean though.
I do think that monks have a lot of sets that really nail like the lightly armored class fantasy brief. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that having one that still feels a bit like bulkier, like maybe you'd want to wear this if you were a tank. That's like trying to get across that like I don't know, like you're protecting your
Yeah,
party.
yeah.
So I think it's a good blend of monk fantasy with
Mm-hmm.
like this prototype progenitor monk.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that one nails the brief pretty well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
And
um,
also, if you look at the legs, it looks like heavy armor from the front, but then if you look from the side, it's actually what's the word? It's not covering the back, so it's exposed at the
yeah,
back.
and you have like the ties, the boot ties. It looks very
Yeah,
lightly put.
yeah, yeah. So it definitely feels light enough. I think this is probably the best set we've seen so far,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
So Paladin. I think that this is one of the sets where the coloration goes really well because paladins are holy, and I also think that the shoulders have a striking silhouette that even if you were to remove some of the glow effects, the point would still be made. And this kind of looks like
Mm-hmm.
prototype judgment.
Yeah, there's something about it that looks very clumsy to me. I'm not sure what it is, but you're right. This one is also one of those sets where the glow effect won't make too big of a difference, and I think that is important. Glow effects are cool, but it shouldn't take over the whole thing. And I also like how the shoulder thing, the frame thing, is you can see from the side that they're not touching each other.
Yeah, that's a really cool floaty effect.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's really cool actually. Especially in game, I think that could look really cool. I'm wondering
I
what
also
it is
think
that
that
makes it feel clumsy. Yeah.
I think all like I mean this was more positive, but I think that the leg plate that they're done to affect like all the 3D things on the side. Like I just think
Mm-hmm.
it's handled really nicely. Um because you
Mm-hmm.
know sometimes like we're just saying with Demon Hunter it looked like the things on the side were just sort of floating, but I think that this is like having like the different
Mm-hmm.
tiers of it. I think it flows
Mm-hmm.
into the tiers of the skirt really well.
Mm-hmm.
Um I
And it
think
screams
maybe
paladin.
yeah. I
It
think
definitely
maybe what's
screams. Mm-hmm.
clumsy is
Mm-hmm.
like um everything seems like very fitted and draped, but then the hood I think because the hood like sort of extends off to the sides and is draped, it feels kind of bulky next to everything else that is like pretty
Mm.
form fitting and layered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't maybe I feel like maybe the hood is throwing off my sense of proportion with this.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe the boots just look too big for the body. I don't know. There's something
Yeah.
about it that looks a bit strange. But I think the
Yeah, the boots
colors.
are kind of like demon hunter hooves.
Yeah. And it also
Um
has a lot of layers, like around the leg pieces, and the shoulders also look layered. But maybe that's a good thing. It gives it like a
Paladin
unique
do
look.
have a lot of layers.
Mm-hmm. They
Um
should.
or it's like healers are like often wearing, you know, robes, but they look kind of fragile, but the paladin is meant to be like the bulky healer. So I think that
Yeah,
having
yeah.
the, you know, it kind of feels like they're trying to like layer all their winter clothes at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so I mean
Yeah.
like they're purposely trying to be layered and heavy.
Yeah.
So I think that vibe is okay, but I do think the shoes are kind of like they're really big but also boring. Like do we really need these to be enormous?
Yeah.
Although I mean I do like the tech on the shoes, how they've got 3D elements on the shoes.
Yeah, I
Like,
like
I
that
think
too.
that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, maybe that could be exciting if they experiment more with like a different
Mm-hmm.
like shapes for feet. I just
Mm-hmm.
feel like it doesn't. I don't think I need this on the Paladin set specifically.
Oh, I think I want to see pants. I think that's what it is.
Oh,
I think I want to see this in pants. I'm not sure why. Um, but you know
like
how the arms
yeah.
look? I would have loved to see that, but on the leg version.
Yeah, I mean, I think both would have worked because I like the script because to me it screams judgment silhouette, like big shoulders and pants. But I can
Yeah,
also see
yeah.
how like tier 1 had the banana shoulders for Paladin, so I could see
Mm-hmm.
why they had pants, so I could see why you wanted that effect as well.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, up next we have the actual priest set, which Frank Paul come back looks really
Yeah.
similar to the mage set.
Yeah. Honestly, if you put them next to each other, I would not really know at once which one is priest, which one is mage, because it's like,
Even the way the shoulder effects are handled, like the upper arm,
yeah,
it's like
it
it's
feels
very
magey.
it's like the same effect as mage.
Yeah, it is.
So
And the hood could also.
yeah, the hood's very similar. It even has like a similar thing on the back of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, colors very Scarlet Crusade. I mean, works better for priest here, but then it shouldn't be on mage.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And this one around the shoulders has something that looks like fire. Like this one almost looks more mage than the other one.
yeah, it's I guess they're trying to go for like the priest robes, where sometimes they have those like little ribbons going down on their vestments.
Yeah.
And I guess trying to make it on fire. But yeah, it almost looks more
Yeah, the fact
mage
that they
than
chose fire.
the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean the robe itself is very plain. But yeah, I also think that if they did these in like holy disciplined shadow tints, this
Mm-hmm.
would be more interesting. Um,
I actually like the
I
shape
know,
of the robe itself. Like if you look
yeah,
at how the robe looks like around the chest area, around the belt area, and then down at the bottom, I think this one looks better than the mage one. I'm gonna quickly pull up the mage one just to remind ourselves. Um, this is how the mage one looked. So around the chest, belt, and like skirt or bottom of robe area, I think the priest one looks better. It has more better shades and coloring somehow, better shapes. I like how it looks like, but the shoulders and the hood and stuff, it feels a little bit too magey. Maybe again just a color discussion. You know, if they
yeah,
had stuck to a sort of priest colors, it would have made more sense. More white colors, or if they wanted to go for like a shadow look, they could have gone for like a slight purple tints or something. But going for like a fire feeling feels a bit off.
I feel like chains could have worked as well because the tier 6 set is so iconic that has the chains on the shoulders.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and that could have further separated it from mage if mage is more
Yeah.
like, look at these rocks, we're bending to our will, and
Mm-hmm.
priest is a mix of like simple lines but also like chains and like elements that emphasize how they're righteous. I think that could be better.
Yeah. I
Um,
agree.
so if we look at the rogue set, um, I think that the helm looks really cool. I don't think the colors are particularly roguelike, but I think that all the glowy effects, actually come to think of it, I do like the colors, the balance of colors better than some of the other things. Like we've said before, there were too many colors going on with others, and I
Yeah.
like how this
They try
mostly
to
sticks
limit.
to the light and dark grays, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not like, oh well, like the top is half red and you know too many colors. I think that the glow effects, I like how the golden glow effects match the golden shoulders, and the white effect matches the white of the helm, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
looks I think overall it's kind of uh, a neat
Mm-hmm.
set, and I even like the V's on the pants because that sort of reminds me of like daggers
Yeah,
and
I like
pointy
that.
ends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think
And
it gives like the rogue a sleek effect, like it's very flattering having that effect. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, I think the set has potential.
I agree with you with the colors because if you look at the red color, for example, it's only used in what is it, 3 spots as the
Hmm.
gem, and it
Yeah,
doesn't have any random brown in it like a lot of the other sets had, and
yeah,
it has the very unique face. I'm not a big fan of how the hood itself looks. I can't
yeah,
exactly explain why, but it feels a little bit like priest shaped. I'm not sure how to
yeah,
explain, but it feels a bit priest shaped. But then the face effect of it looks really cool, and the rest of the set looks really cool too. I think it's just the hood shape that looks a bit weird.
yeah. So next up, looking at Shaman.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there are clear class fantasy elements like the wolf head that
Yeah.
kind of looks stylized with like blocky fur,
Yeah.
and the gloves
Mm-hmm.
having like the fur sort of around the gloves and the scales similar to hunter but used in a
Yeah.
different way.
I like it.
Um yeah, so I think it's cool. I
Notice
like
how they
how
show a lot of skin as well. It's
yeah, I
perfect.
think that's important because you can have the metallic elements, but it would have felt too bulky like a hunter if they covered it all up.
Mm-hmm.
So I like how this is like more of a natural look than the very heavily armored hunter set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think this looks really good actually. And the colors
And
are really good as well. It doesn't feel like there's too many colors.
yeah, I like how the red is used to be it really looks like when the red is used, like it's holding all of these fur and
Mm-hmm.
stone elements together. Like it has a very rough feel to it, like a very primal feel, while the druid is a little more polished, and I think it works really well.
Yeah.
Um
I agree.
I,
I like it.
yeah.
I like the wolf helmet. I like how
Yeah,
the
it's
hands
a really
look.
nice color.
Mm-hmm. The shoulders aren't the most special, but I think it fits the set.
Yeah,
And the
I
boots
also
are
think you
matching
could take
the
the
gloves
shoulders
too.
off. You could take the shoulders off and have it be like a more like simple shaman look, which
Mm,
I think
yeah.
it's important for that to work.
Mm-hmm.
Um so and yeah, I do like how the boots echo the gloves as well. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
neat.
And I think this probably looks a lot cooler as well on some of the other models. Like, because here we have
Yeah.
like a male orc, which can look a bit clunky, and
Mm,
it can have a less clunky look on some of the other races.
yeah.
But yeah, overall, I like it, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't really see any particular thing that I feel is off or bad. I think it looks nice.
Yeah. Um so yeah, let's look at the warlock one, which is having some elements changed next PTR build.
Oh, this is Warlock? I thought it was
Um
Priest again.
So, I mean, besides the helm, which everyone realized needed to be changed, especially this is the problem with having every class need a white color scheme. Like some
Yes.
colors and shapes don't go well together. So like white
Yes.
is not a warlock color, and then when you combine it with hoods with like certain cultural implications, you get a bad effect. Like I think that if this
Yes.
was like purple, people
It
wouldn't
wouldn't
have
be.
noticed
Yeah,
anything. But
exactly.
making the choice to have it be white was created problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So
And,
I do like how the skirt has like a fiery gradient effect.
I like that too.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think like that is very warlock because a lot of warlock sets have very kind of like we're fiery but in alternate colors. So I think that's cool. I'm not getting the like the spheres at the waist and the shoulders. Like that to me reminds me of Monk. Like
Yeah,
it
I
doesn't
really
look
don't get
very
those spheres either. Um,
yeah.
wait, there's spheres on the shoulders? Oh, is that what's floating? Those are
Yeah, they're
spheres?
like broken
Mm,
spheres. So
yeah, I
maybe if
see.
the mage set had like intact spheres and the warlock set had all smashed up spheres, I could be like, oh, that this explains
Mm-hmm.
the different approaches to magic, but I don't really get the spheres. So I think that this
Yeah.
set I like the skirt, but the rest of the set I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like Warlock. And also the things that are hanging from the shoulders, um, I that doesn't feel like Warlock either. It
I
feels
feel
like
like
Monk.
I mean, I think that if they did some sort of like prototype wings effect, like the tier 6 set, that would be
Mm-hmm.
more warlock.
Yeah.
Or, a lot of warlock sets have horns. So it's like, why do we have this helm that has no sort of horn?
Yeah. Yeah, we
Like even
haven't
the
had
challenge
proper
boosted
horns for a
has
long
really
time.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think
So I
giving
think
horns would have
that
been good.
like some sort of horn or like demon wing effect would have been really cool. But yeah, I'm not really seeing warlocks from this aside
No.
from the helm issue.
Yeah. So the helm has been commented by Blizzard, and they
Mhm.
are updating it. We haven't seen what the update will be yet, but it's coming. But even with update, I don't think I'm gonna be a big fan of this look because it doesn't feel like Warlock. The colors throws it off, and even the styles itself, the shoulders are feel weird. They don't feel like Warlock. The belt with the balls, like that's
Looks
also
like
kind of
a bug.
weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so for a final set, we have Warrior, which looks better than the preview. Um, but one notable thing is that on the concept art, there was this very interesting, like, additional sort of glow rune effect on the shoulders. And that seems to be on like the shoulders and boots and
Yeah.
other parts, and that seems to be missing. So it looks kind of plain. And I get that like
Mm-hmm.
warriors are meant to be like sturdy and reliable. They've got this plain stone, but I think the rune overlay looked really cool on the concept art.
Yeah, I agree. The concept art did look a lot more um, detailed and fancy than most of the sets, so maybe
Yeah.
that's why they weren't really going for it. I'm not sure. Maybe this is a toned down version, and they're gonna have the more glowy one later. Um, but yeah, I think overall it looks okay. It's
Yeah.
it has the Titan look to it, and I'm not sure what else. What would you say could be added to make it feel more like Warrior? Because right now it doesn't feel like Warrior, but I'm not sure what you could do with
So,
it.
I mean, I think the helm looks like very warrior. Like a lot of those classic helms just
Mm-hmm.
look like, bucket helmets with like a little
Mm-hmm.
slit for your eyes. So I think
Yeah,
that makes it look warrior. I think the shoulders being very heavy reminds me of some of the really old sets
that's
like
true.
tier 2.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that like the very armored kneecaps look good, and the belt kind of has a stone effect. What I don't
Mm-hmm.
totally get are it's like I don't know if there's some symbolism with the spheres, but I don't understand why there's these
Oh yeah, this one has
spheres
spheres
on the
too.
belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that to me doesn't add anything. So I
Mm-hmm.
probably would have had less with the spheres and just have that big belt buckle stand out and
Mm-hmm.
put some sort of interesting like I don't know, rune or spike or
Mm-hmm.
something in the middle of those shoulders if they couldn't do the rune effect.
The pants has
Uh,
this color which is a bit dark gray, and I think I would have liked to see that on the chest and arms as well.
yeah, like to me it's weird how like it's sort of a too many color thing. Like I
Yeah,
do think it's
yeah,
good how they use the red pretty sparingly for the gems, just like Rogue. But
yeah,
to me
and a
it's
bit on the
weird
belt.
that
I think that's
yeah,
okay.
like
Mm-hmm.
the pants are dark gray as the background,
I
and
like
then the
that.
chest
Mm-hmm.
is like brown.
Yeah,
And I'm
and
just
it makes
like,
the
why
chest
don't we
look
just pick one
small.
color?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the fact that the chest area is darker makes it look smaller, and I think that's
Yeah.
what makes it look a bit off. I think, and if you
Yeah.
would have the similar similar pattern, similar color to the pants, but on the arms and the chest, I think that would complete it for me. And
Yeah.
yeah, the choice of where the red is perfect. Just
Yeah. I think that's
accents here and there, and then mainly a sort of silver and gold look. I think is okay.
yeah.
I think if they would go for like a darker shade of gold and silver in general, I think it could work because of Warrior. But it's okay as well.
Yeah. Um
I really like
and we have
the
very
chest piece that surrounds the sort of helm area. Feels
yeah,
heavy.
I like that big collar. I think
Yeah,
that
collar. That's the word. Mm-hmm.
that works a lot better than the sort of like weird cloth paladin one. I like this silhouette a lot
Yes.
better.
Yeah, I
Like I
like
think
it.
that the shoulders and the collar really get this like stone protector I am a tank effect.
Yeah,
And then the stone
and it fits
doubles
really
well
well
for
with the
like
shoulders.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a
After
cat doing
staring,
things.
after staring at it now, quite
Yeah.
intensely, I think I like the warrior set. Although I would have liked to
Yeah.
see more silver where the brown details are. More gray, not silver. More gray
Right.
where the brown details are.
So yeah, so why don't we look at some of the weapons? Like we've data mined weapons in tons of tints, so we don't need to highlight all of them, but you can find notes in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Annie, were there any specific ones you wanted to draw to attention? The one that stood out to me was the one that looked like the Algalon dagger, just like high definition
Mm.
and in more colors. So I
Yeah.
thought that was neat.
Let me see if I can pull them out. I've got a slideshow going now with different ones coming up, but I know exactly which ones you mean because I thought that looked cool as well. And it comes in 3 new colors, which was really cool. Let me just pull it out.
Yeah, the red ones to me especially were neat because it gave me like a Argus Death Titan vibe. Like how
Mm-hmm.
all of his stuff on Mythic was that celestial vibe, but
Oh, it's up
red,
now.
and you could get, the scythe that was red instead
Mm-hmm.
of blue.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the red colors are interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also get like a green one to represent life, and yeah,
Yep.
I really like all those colors.
I really like them as well. And I knew exactly what you were talking about when you described it because I think they look really cool.
Yeah.
They definitely stuck out to me. When it comes to the other weapons, I think they all looked, I guess, somewhat standard, but
Mm.
I like that they all had a color version that had a sort of red gem look in them.
Yeah.
So, for example, the one that we're looking at now is a sort of standard color with a bit of green, and then you have a version of it with red. And I found that with all the different weapons, I always liked the red version because the red
Yeah.
version is like red and gold, and I think they look really good in all of the different weapon types.
It was also nice to include glaives because we
Mm-hmm.
were just saying that it was very difficult to find things that actually match the Demon Hunter set. And
Mm-hmm.
if they are going to go with the light tint, it's nice that now you can have a weapon that, at least one weapon that matches it.
Yeah, that's true. And for the glaives as well, you have a red version, so that would be my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I also like the
Uh,
staff of similar color too, so the red and golden version.
yeah. And the swords seem very glowy, especially the
Mm-hmm.
red and gold version.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And then there's also these two weapons that are cosmetic that I believe are sort of titled like the Jailer's Weapon. Um, the Ashen Morswan Sorn Maul and the Ebon Maul. So I guess if we want to look like a angry Maul Sworn, we can in 9-2 since they're cosmetic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me pull the picture for that as well. Here we go. But yeah, I think overall, I like that there were these pretty nice color schemes of things. It made it they all fit into the different appearances and in all the different weapon types. And then
And
you
the good
had
thing
the
about
unique.
weapons
Mm-hmm.
is that even if it's not mythic difficulty, the weapons like just change tints, they won't lose their effects.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
if you're doing this on normal, you could get a weapon with a cool glow effect that, could make your armor look more complete, more interesting.
Mm-hmm. There was
Um,
also a golden version of the Algalon looking weapon here.
yeah,
This is the golden version. I really like them.
yeah, I think that all of them are a lot of fun, and
Mm-hmm.
would love to see more celestial things in this style. I think last week we were talking about that transmog set from the shop and
Mm-hmm.
how it was very celestial and
Mm-hmm.
how that looked better than some of the initial pictures for the 9-2 armor sets.
Yeah.
So it's nice that you can get high quality celestial things in the game, how it's all not behind the shop.
Yeah. I agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's
Um
it on the weapons.
yeah.
These weapons are all available on Wowhead, so you can take a look at all of
Mhm.
them yourself. You can even try them out in the dressing room with whatever transmog you're using. And
Um
we can move
yeah.
on to the next thing.
Yeah. One more armor set. So
Yes.
there are broker themed transmog sets coming in patch 9.2, but they're more representing the enlightened, which is like the broker faction that's less into being materialistic, so they're a little more like shabby or ragged. Um and the cloth, leather, and mail sets kind of seem like a work in progress, so I wanted to highlight the plate because I think that was the coolest one.
Mm-hmm.
Um And the helm is super cool because it has a really distinctive silhouette, and then your head is kind of covered in a flame. I think
Yeah,
that looks really cool.
I really like that flame effect. It looks really cool.
Yeah. So, of course, the concept art, always looks cooler than the final
Mm-hmm.
effect.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that the helm has a lot of potential. And if
Yeah.
you look at the rest of the set, you can see how like it's flamboyant like brokers, but if you look closely at the red where the
Mm-hmm.
shoulders are,
Mm-hmm.
or just like the effect on other pieces of cloth, it does look kind of worn and not as elaborate as the broker. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
they haven't bothered to replace their armor for a while.
Yeah.
So I think the plate set conveys this the best. I think for some of the other sets it looks a little generic, or people really want, like the puffy sleeves and pantaloons that, striped of the
Yeah.
other brokers.
Yeah.
Which, is impossible, but I really like this helm.
Yeah. I think it looks really cool. It's very unique.
Yeah. Hopefully they can do more stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because like this helm is like way better than the helms the other armor types get.
Yeah. I agree. Like this looks a lot cooler than a lot of the raid sets here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, wouldn't it be cool if you could just have a helm and with, I want this
Mm-hmm.
as a helm instead of just like this kind of
Mm-hmm.
way more interesting than the mage, priest, and
Yep.
warlock hoods.
Yep.
Yeah,
For
let's leave
sure.
it.
Especially Warlock.
And yeah, there's been a lot of mounts that we've been highlighting on Wowhead every
Mm-hmm.
day.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want to go into all of them, and we've highlighted some last week, like the really cool snail mount. But I think we just wanted to highlight a few notable ones related to PvP rewards, including some news we got today about the gladiator one.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is that there is a vicious wolf and
Yep.
a vicious toad with alliance and horde colors, and the wolf is cool because alliance usually don't get uh wolf mounts,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone, like, the toad just looks really fun. Everyone likes toads.
Yep. I think toads are cool. And they have a sort of cool glittery celestial effect almost on their like the throat area, and it looks cool. I like them. And
Yeah,
they
I,
have
I
the
just
red version and then the blue version for Alliance.
yeah, I just the toads are so much fun. Like, they've got the faction logos on the sides,
Mm-hmm.
and they have like a little blanket bedroll, and they have very short front legs, but they've got the little armor
They have
effect
the
on it.
armor on the hands.
I
It's
just
actually
think
so
it's really
cute.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
the toads are just fun. Brightpo, what are you doing? Come back.
And the seat has
Um,
the Alliance flag on the side. I mean, the Alliance symbol.
yeah. So
I
I
like
think,
that.
yeah, I just think that they're really fun. I really
Yeah.
like these. Um, Something that was not as exciting or fun when first I stop when first discovered was the season 3 gladiator mount. The mount that was marked as season 3 had a very gray, boring color,
Yeah.
and
Which.
Blizzard, everyone was like, well,
Mm-hmm.
the Mythic Plus mount is a recolor, but it's like bright red, and that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And Blizzard confirmed this morning that they're going to use a red version of the you know, the
Of the
Soul
Gladiator
Eater
mount.
for
Mm-hmm.
season 3, which looks way
Mm-hmm.
cooler.
Yeah, I think that's really good because both season one and season two were already close to different shades of sort of gray, bluish, and having a third one that also looks like that would be quite disappointing. And that's the one that they had initially picked. And after a lot of feedback and people tagging them and probably directly also giving feedback to them, they have now announced that yes, they will use the red model instead, since a lot of people asked for it.
Yeah, which I think between this and the Warlock model, it shows that Blizzard uh is able to change some models, or which they didn't do as frequently in the past,
Yep.
that they have been responding to feedback. Like, I know there was that Datamine mailed Ardenweald set they decided not to use because it just didn't pop. But
Mm-hmm.
for things like, yeah, we realize this Warlock helm doesn't look great with this color, or the season
Mm-hmm.
gladiator mount, it's boring, we're gonna change it. I think that's important. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. I mean, maybe fingers crossed, maybe that means that other sets could receive tweaks if, some colors don't work, or, they need to change things.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're presenting everything we can, but it's a good example that things are always subject to change. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's good that they can be subject to change based on
Mm-hmm.
feedback. Like if there wasn't data mining, uh, people wouldn't know that this mount was this color or that the Warlock white set looked really bad, because the servers weren't up. So
Yeah.
Blizzard had an extra week or two to address the feedback from how things looked and make some changes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in this case, having data mining in advance made things, helped change a few
Yeah.
models that had issues.
I mean, that's true, especially because this red one, the red gladiator option, was not going to be used at all. Meaning, if it
Right.
was never data mined, it would have never been seen, because it
Yeah.
wouldn't be in the game at all.
Yeah. So I think that's about it for models. And of course, there are a lot of systems things we haven't really discussed on the show that we have tons of articles up on Wowhead. Like we have editorials on every tier set bonus, thoughts on that. But one system we did want to highlight that we thought could fit the show well, because it's related to collecting, was Protoform Synthesis.
Mm-hmm.
And this was not announced in the developer preview video, but had a lot of details in the data mining. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a new crafting system that allows you to gather reagents and create mounts and battle pets with a Zareth Mortis appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And this seems to be a refined version of the junkyard system in Mechagon, where you get like reagents from, uh, the new zone, and then you can create these really cool items.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Some of
all
these
sorts of
rewards look
things.
pretty cool.
Yeah, like there's a really cool jellyfish battle pet called Prototickles.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a disembodied core sphere. Um,
There's
I
these
like
mounts as
archetype
well.
of multiplicity is like a bunny. Archetype of survival is a cockroach. So these names are really fun. Um,
Yeah.
I like Buzz. It's like the prototype bee. Like you can tell it's a
Oh
bee,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's in the
yeah.
projector style. So yeah.
And these are the mounts as well. Then we got a, or wait, are these? Yeah, I think these are. Let's see. Yeah, these are
The
mounts.
Yeah, the red boar, the
And the
bee,
spider.
the sort of talbucky thing, and
Mm-hmm.
the spider, those are the mounts.
Mm-hmm. I like the Talbooky thing, and I like the spider.
Yeah.
I think they look
And
cool.
yeah. I just really like the names for like the archetype of multiplicity, how it's like a bunny getting in trouble.
Yeah.
And the survival is like a cockroach. Um, but yeah, all of these they have real fun names, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also good for collectors if this is something that you can, an interesting project
Get
you can
by,
do at
yeah.
your own pace.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as opposed to being like, oh, I have to just farm this rare
Mm-hmm.
spawn over and over, hoping for something.
Mm-hmm. And this is the bunny
Or
that Perk was talking about. Archetype of multiplicity.
I
It's
wonder
very
if
cute.
any is a cat.
Um. Hmm.
Yeah, I'm just looking at them quickly.
Satisfaction.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
archetype
I'm
of
not
malice
sure.
is a wasp. Yeah. Archetype of cunning is a snake.
Malice.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I just think that these are all pretty fun.
Yeah.
Um
I think
and
systems that are meant to be for cosmetic is always going to be like a good thing, as long as it's not some kind of complicated thing that's introduced once and then never used again because it was meant to be for power. Then it feels bad. But when it's
yeah,
cosmetic, then you know it's gonna stay there for
yeah. And like
forever.
I don't like spiders, but I think people are really excited that they can get a
I like
spider mount
spiders. Yeah.
that isn't
Well, no,
like,
I don't like spiders, but I like the model.
that isn't, like PvPing or
Mm-hmm.
spending a lot of gold.
Yeah.
Um But yeah, I do think that this is sort of an example of how Blizzard could have known their audience better. Like that Zereth Mortis video was a lot of lore, and then a very scary looking cipher of the first ones with lots of systems boxes,
Yeah.
and a very brief note about mounts and pets at the end. And this
Yeah.
system wasn't even mentioned. But I
Yeah.
think if they were like, you can, collect lots of mounts and pets through activities or through
Mhm.
crafting, I think that would have gotten
Mhm.
people hyped because this was incredibly well received when we
Mhm.
posted about it.
Yeah.
So I feel like this probably should have been something they put in their preview video
Mhm. I agree.
as opposed to like, oh, Cypher, look at these like 30 boxes you have to fill out. Do you like systems that last for one patch?
Yep. Absolutely.
um, yeah.
Yeah, we also have
So
this other thing,
yeah, some raid encounters.
prototypes. Mm-hmm.
Um, so uh, the dungeon journal was data mined for all the encounters, and surprise, we're fighting the jailer. But 3 of the encounters had sort of more notable details that we wanted to highlight, whether it's like models or abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one are these prototype Pantheon models. Um, and the prototype Pantheon, it's like, oh, I guess this realm can even, print copies of the gods, and
Mm-hmm.
the jailer has used the secrets of the zone to reshape reality, and he's trying to bend it, and he's created basically these prototype Shadowlands Covenant leaders, and based
Mm-hmm.
on the names, you can piece them up pretty well, and they look really interesting. Like the prototype of war is clearly like a half-finished Primus. Prototype of duty is the Kyrian. Renewal is
I
the
think they
Winter
actually
Queen.
look really cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that they look really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I really like the Winter Queen's wings, how they're done, and
Yes.
how like just her body is just this ball in the
Yeah.
center. I guess all of them have the ball in the center. Just harder to see with the Primus with his beard, but yeah, I think they look really cool,
Yep.
and it shows how serious things are if the jailer can access something that lets it's not just like, oh, we made a
Mm-hmm.
prototype bunny. It's like, oh, we made a prototype
Mm-hmm.
uh you know
And
covenant leader.
look at those horns that Denathrius
Yeah,
has. Like, why couldn't Warlocks get that?
yeah, that would have been better on the tier set.
Yeah.
Like Denathrius has a better tier set than us.
Yeah, you,
um
you give the better set to Denathrius. Oh no.
yeah. And I think, like, I mean, the lore is still very kind of up in the air, but if they're saying that, this is the place where gods can be generated, it really
Mm-hmm.
makes you think, like, were there other versions of these gods that are printed?
Mm-hmm.
If you could make a copy of the Winter Queen, like, is
Yeah.
this where Elune came from as well, if they're sisters? Like, were other very powerful beings on Azeroth
Mm-hmm.
sort of printed from this forge as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this works well because it looks really cool. And then as you're fighting, it makes you think like, oh, gee, they cloned this interesting deity. Like, what does
Yeah.
that mean for other things we worship? So
Yeah.
I think that this is pretty interesting.
I agree.
And
And I
yeah,
think
I
that
really like the
was
Winter Queen. Like
it's
her
really
her
pretty.
helm, like
Mm-hmm.
her horns, that would be really cool as the Druid horns, I think.
Ah. Wait, let me bring it forward
Or
again.
like,
I agree. That would
yeah.
actually look really cool.
Yeah. Or like the Archon's wings towards the bottom, how they're less fluffy and more kind of abstract with spikes. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like if they wanted to go, I feel like they kind of have cool elements that would work for, uh, the class armor sets.
I agree. I agree. I think that's also one thing that threw me off with the Druid one, but I couldn't put my finger on it until you mentioned it now. The antlers on the Druid felt too rigid and too thick,
Right.
too like
Yeah,
metal. And what we see here with the Winter Queen looks so much cooler. I
right.
think it would have fit better, especially
Yeah,
together
and
with
I
the
think
feathery
that
details that you had as a Druid. I think this would have looked cooler.
yeah, I think all their back pieces are very flowy as well, and they just make the
Mm-hmm.
characters seem dynamic, even though they're like robots. While I
Mm-hmm.
think some of the sets feel like very layered and heavy that the characters wear. Like you were saying, oh, Monk feels like plate, or like Paladin has like a bunch of layers. So I think that if they had some like more flowy dynamic capes, it could
Mm-hmm.
balance out the bulk.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So another interesting thing is the jailer encounter, which confirms a lot of the
Oh,
foreshadowing that the
should we put
jailer.
spoiler tag up?
Yeah, I think so. I think we
Yeah,
could do that, even though it's kind of old. But yeah, we could put it up.
just to be on the safe side. Might be a little bit of spoilers incoming here.
Yeah. So, jailer has always been like death comes for the soul of your world, and now it seems that when we fight the jailer, some of his attacks target Azeroth directly, and
Yep.
we as the players need to protect the world soul while fighting the jailer. So there's Apocalypse Bolt, inflicts 5% of Azeroth's maximum health and shadow damage.
Mm-hmm.
Desolation, Zoval launches a volley of missiles at Azeroth, decreasing Azeroth's health by up to 20%. And, he also uses Defile, further, like, linking him to, his, minions on
Yeah.
Azeroth.
Mm-hmm.
And the phases have names that echo past encounters. So, we have Intermission Machine of Origination. That sounds really similar to the Forge of Origination, which the players used to destroy N'Zoth in Battle for Azeroth. There's that press kit image of like the jailer standing in front of a beam that looks really similar to Azerite, and it's like, oh, now this makes sense if there's this parallel with the
Mm-hmm.
origination areas.
Mm-hmm.
And then another really similar name is Phase 3, the
The
Unmaking, which
unmaking.
sounds really similar to
Mm-hmm.
Argus the Unmaker from the end of Legion. So I think it's
Yep.
interesting how two phases are callbacks to the final bosses from the last two expansions.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why they also feel like this is a sort of tie together of different loose ends, because
Yeah.
it's connecting everything together. Maybe that's what they were also referring to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely ties together. If someone was like, we
The
were
story
telling
since
a three
Legion. Yeah.
with like Legion villains, I'd be like, yeah, totally see that. But if they're
Yeah.
like, this concludes 20 years, I'd be like,
Yeah.
not so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, it makes more sense that it's like concluding things that started from Legion, more like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's also interesting knowing that the jailer, between the jailer attacking Azeroth and this idea that, Zereth Mortis is a place where, like, even gods can be printed, and then it's like, do we really have free will? Like, between
Mm-hmm.
those two things, it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting when you look back to BFA and the old gods are, you know, warning us about events that come to happen in Shadowlands, and the old gods are always presenting like all these chaotic possibilities. So it's almost like were the old gods trying to like rebel against this very organized system and the
Yeah.
jailer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then also we have to keep in mind that in past interviews, Blizzard was hinting that the sword has a part to play
Yeah.
in things to come.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, if we ended Legion with Sargeras trying to destroy Azeroth with the sword, and now we have the jailer trying to come for Azeroth, that's, it sort of comes full circle. And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting. It's like, there was some hints that with the Dreadlords, like Sargeras was maybe manipulated into overreacting to how things were ordered. Maybe he had bad information from the Dreadlord, so it's like, was Sargeras trying to destroy Azeroth so other forces like the Jailer couldn't get to it? It's very
Yeah.
interesting, but either way, there's a lot of parallels to the first attack on Azeroth, so I would not be surprised if we finally address the sword after all this, or I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
Azeroth will
It's
just
just been
like
chilling there for a few years.
yeah. There's also there was a question in an interview like, will Azeroth ever be born? Will we ever see her? And the devs were like, oh, wait and see. So it's like,
Um.
will Azeroth wake up and be like, "Here's the sword, I'm done with the jailer, now you
Mm,
finally see me." That would actually be pretty badass.
that
Um,
would actually be really cool
yeah.
if that
Um,
could be pulled
and
off. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I mean, even if the jailer is directly attacking Azeroth, that to me sets up that the next expansion could see us try to sort things out at home because
Yeah.
if he's like taking off chunks of Azeroth's health, I'm sure that translates into
Bad
meteors or
stuff.
things destroying Azeroth, which
Yeah. Because
um
even if we defeat
yeah.
them, I'm sure it means that there's going to be some kind of effects back at Azeroth. So we need to go back and maybe fix it or stop from
Yeah.
further damage. Maybe if
And
Azeroth is
maybe that
weakened,
could
there's other forces that come and, try to take over.
yeah. I wonder if we'll go back. They always talk about, when you see the star in the sky go away, you know that we're in trouble. So it'll be interesting if we
Mm.
go back and it's like everything's a mess and
Yeah.
Sargeras's prison has disappeared
Mm-hmm.
as a result of the chaos. So yeah. Uh
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting. Or maybe the jailer would try to use the sword. Either way, I think that you know, I think that this, the jailer story, even though we didn't know him in past expansions, it is interesting how it's coming full circle, and hopefully we can now go back to
Mm-hmm.
Azeroth, and
Mm-hmm.
even if we have cosmic events, it will be more grounded in reality in the
Mm-hmm.
future, hopefully.
I think the jailer is fine as he is. I think the only thing that feels bad with the jailer is that he's supposedly behind the brain of everything, the past decade, but like nobody
Uh,
knew of it. I think that's the only part that makes it feel a bit like, maybe it didn't need
yeah.
to have such a grand introduction
Mm.
if we're not gonna really feel it, you know?
Yeah, I think that he could have been built up a bit more. Like everyone knew about Arthas and the Lich King, for
Mm-hmm.
years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or it's
Maybe
like
he could have just
Deathwing. It's
been in
like,
the
oh,
Shadowlands and that's it, Not that he controlled
yeah.
everything from way back.
Or it's like, with Garrosh, we saw him, even from Burning Crusade, like lacking
Yeah.
confidence, then becoming more of a leader,
Mm-hmm.
and having some moments where he was like leading well but harshly before like really going off the deep end. So I
Yeah.
think that it's nice when you can see the characters grow over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so the final encounter we wanted to highlight is the Anduin encounter,
Mm-hmm.
um, which has a lot of Arthas throwbacks, including hints that we might actually see Arthas himself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems that the encounter is all about us helping Anduin uh, regain his willpower and then using that to confront the source of his domination directly, the remnant of the fallen king. So it
Mm-hmm.
seems like Arthas's power is sort of controlling Anduin. And like there's lots of throwbacks, like stage 1 is called um
Kingsborn
Kingsmorn Hungers,
hungers. Yep.
and Wrath was all about Frostborn Hungers,
Mm-hmm.
and the abilities act very similar to how player souls were banished in the Lich King
Mm-hmm.
encounter in the Frostborn phase.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of throwbacks there.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the intermission, more Death Knight abilities, Soul Reaper, and Remorseless Winter,
Yep.
and which again hints that the remnant of the fallen king is like the remainder of Arthas that's trapped and influencing Anduin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there is then of course Zoval uses the defile
Yep.
ability in the final place of his encounter, which furthers the connection between like the jailer directly influencing the Lich King and now Anduin.
Yep.
So
Yeah, there's
yeah,
lots of like DK and Lich King hints in all the different abilities and names of these phases and everything.
yeah, like even Army of the Dead, Soul Reaper, Necrotic, Soul Explosion, like they're really
Yep.
trying to emphasize
Yeah.
the Death
It's
Knight
very
as
clear.
of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
tons of throwbacks to the actual Arthas encounter. So
Mm-hmm.
it sounds really complex. The journal is more complete than things usually are for the first week of a PTR, which
Mm-hmm.
I think gave people a lot to kind of speculate and analyze, which I think is interesting. Normally, like the dungeon journal is empty for like a week or two, or there's just very placeholder abilities. But with so many in place, you can see how Anduin is shaping up to be like a pretty impressive, like story heavy encounter, kind of
Mm-hmm.
justifying its position as like the final boss of week one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point too. With a bit of a reminder of the last bosses being split up from the first section of the raid, so you're gonna have uh, the encounters up to Anduin in the first week,
Mhm.
and then you have the ones after that being unfolded in the next week, just to put extra emphasis on it. Probably from the um, the raid perspective as well, but probably also heavily in the story.
Yeah. So, I guess that about wraps. Oh, we have one more spoilery thing. Um, the Arbiter of the Shadowlands. This was something that I feel like Blizzard maybe should have hidden, like the Sourfang stuff completely, or if they knew it couldn't be hidden with data mining, like made a blue post or revealed more in the data. Um, there's some hints that Pelagos could take on the role of the Arbiter in
Yeah.
the future. Um, we don't know what that entails. We know that there are NPCs that are Arbiter Pelagos,
Mm-hmm.
and there's Titan male combat sounds associated with that NPC instead of his old sound files.
Mm-hmm.
And the model for Arbiter Pelagos is not yet visible. And then there's some voiceover from Clea and Pelagos that sounds very incomplete, but it sounds like um, she's very upset about this choice, very scared for him,
Yeah.
and we don't have all of his dialogue, but we have a line where he's sort of joking that he's sorry he could never become an acolyte, and then there's future lines where he's asking us for our help in defeating the jailer.
Yeah.
So to me, this implies that this will happen in week one if we're at a point where he's asking us for help in week two.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And what Clea
and
is
yeah, I
saying
think
here in her lines is Pelagos, what
yeah,
do you mean? What? No, but your soul. You do not have to do this. I do not want to let you go.
yeah. So I think there's a few clear hints that do point that Pelagos wants to take on this role, but we don't know what he's going to look like.
Yeah.
We don't really know much about the Arbiter, and she seems really upset. So I think people are worried that like he'll have a very like maybe like his story won't end in a satisfactory way, or
Mm-hmm.
like this is some horrible fate if she's really upset by it. Like we don't
Mm-hmm.
know what he's going to look like once he becomes the arbiter since the model
Mm-hmm.
is hidden. He could it could just be a really cool badass construct or just Pelagos wearing a helm.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he'll stay in the form he chose, but I think people are just really sensitive or just concerned that it's kind of like a risky
Mm-hmm.
people really liked this character and they're worried that
Yeah.
with incomplete information they're just worried it could go
That's
badly.
mm-hmm. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a big reveal. I know
Yeah.
a lot of people were wondering if maybe Sylvanas would somehow take that spot as
Right.
well, and I think with it being quite a big part of the story, it should have, like you said, been introduced in a way that's more full, more in context, more properly introduced. With a quest maybe, or maybe a small cutscene or
Like
something,
a short story on the website.
a short
Like just I
story.
just feel that yeah, like maybe a story from like Pelagos's point of view where it's just like
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't know, him reflecting on the arbiters. Because like I think just when people only have a few things to go by and most of the voice lines are Clea sounding very emotional and upset, you're like, oh, I hope this isn't like eternal torture for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
you have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But I do think that not going with Sylvanas is good. I think that that would have been like
Yeah.
really cliched.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm glad
agree.
they're not doing that.
It just maybe should have had more context and more build up, and Yeah, just having it done in a way that makes it feel more complete.
Yeah, like I do think that the data mining was good for other things, like we saw the models and then we could give feedback and that the models could be tweaked to be better, like this gladiator mount,
Mm-hmm.
or we saw a hint of, you know, Sylvanas in the Eternity End preview, and we had some lore interviews on how she's like a prisoner but trying to help them understand the jailer's
Mm-hmm.
magic. So when we saw the model of her, it wasn't a total surprise either, but I think that there were like no interviews about this or context in advance. Like this
Mm-hmm.
was a thing that Blizzard didn't mention, like, oh, you're asking about what happens next. Well, did you think of the Arbiter? So I feel that this was this was like just a very kind of risky thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um
If it
to
wasn't
like actually
Sylvanas,
fail it.
if it
Yeah.
wasn't Sylvanas or Pelagos, like, who would you have rather seen? Because
Maybe they
Sylvanas, like you
don't need
said,
an arbiter. Like
mm-hmm.
if the machine of death, like if there were actual issues with it, and if the Curians like, you know, decided to reshape how they do things because they realized that how
Mm-hmm.
they were always were doing it were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, maybe instead the leaders of all the realms should have a council. You know, like we have a
Like the
horde
Horde.
council now.
Yeah.
We have a Shadowlands council now.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I would. I don't know. Maybe do something. Maybe do something like that. But you know, right now it's like the arbiter. You know, we don't really know the arbiter that well. When we last saw the arbiter, it's like, is this a person in there? Is this a construct that happens to be female now? The arbiter seems very powerless, like she's just sort of slumped over, like we never really see her the arbiter doing its job very well.
Yeah.
It doesn't really seem to have a personality, so I think that people are worried that if they, you know, could relate to Pelagos, you know, liked his dialogue, I think people are worried that, oh no, you know, is this guy gonna be just sentenced to be this, you know, boring
Yeah.
24/7 working robot, or the
Mm-hmm.
line of, you know, but your soul, you do not have to do this. People are worried, you know, like, will he not have a soul after uh you know, this
Yeah.
thing? So,
Yeah.
and it's like it seems that some dialogue is hidden, but enough dialogue was given to uh kind of have like the most dramatic worried reaction to what was going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think that this could have been handled better.
Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, it is what it is. Maybe once the PTR is up you can actually play through this quest line and it will make more sense. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I can see why people were concerned about this, and I think that yeah, probably should have been revealed differently, or at least explained in an interview beforehand, like some of the other details.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then for our final thing, we're not going to show the cutscenes because they're kind of incomplete, but
Yeah.
we did want to
Like
highlight that we had a few sort of incomplete cutscenes highlighting getting to Zereth Mortis and the Forge of Afterlife, showing the jailer meddling and things.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I think something that's interesting, it's a minor detail, but seeing the Bane is once again present because he just
He's
wasn't for
doing
he doesn't
something.
really do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not
Um
just sitting somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah, the
Um
cutscenes have a lot of dialogue missing, and there's also like very nice red crosses covering because it's not ready, and a bunch of other things that makes it not so fun to watch. But you can check them out yourself if you want to on Wowhead as they're available. You can still read the subtitles, but we figured that it's better to just talk about it instead of showing it in that case.
yeah.
Um,
Like if we see them on
mhm.
the PTR and they've got like music and like no X in the middle, you know, then I
Yeah.
think we want to highlight it. But I think for first, like, you know, we have them clearly marked in Wowhead as a spoiler. So if you don't want to see it, that's fine. But you know, if you're going to be ambushed with it, we want to present like the finished cutscene so you
Hmm.
can see the
Make
ambiance
sense of
and
and actually hear
yeah,
things from. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but yeah. So I think unless you guys want us to discuss any more stuff with 9.2, I think we want to highlight some of the Blizzard related news, like when we
Yeah,
were
I
doing
think the
the
game
show.
related stuff is okay now. I
Yeah.
actually,
Um,
we actually talked a lot about all this stuff. I didn't think it would be this much,
yeah, we
but
skipped
yeah.
so much, and we talked a really long time on it. So
Yeah. But yeah, I think this will be a good time to jump into what is happening outside of the game and back at Blizzard, since that has been a very important topic as of lately. Um,
yeah.
we, which one should we begin with?
So
Here
I
on, yeah,
think
on the
the,
topic of
the
the
news.
co-leading. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we learned at our last show that Jen O'Neill was not paid as much as Mike Ibarra, and
Oh, and spoiler tag gone. There we go.
yeah, this is not a spoiler.
Yeah, this is not a
And
spoiler.
then IGN revealed soon after that both co-leads actually went to Blizzard. When they went into the role, they were given their existing pay scale.
Mm-hmm.
And they both went to Activision asking for equal pay,
Equal
and
pay.
that
Mm-hmm.
was rejected until Jen O'Neill put in her resignation. So,
Yeah.
like, that just makes it even worse because, like, Blizzard promoted them knowing they did not have equal salaries when they are under fire for
Yeah.
discrimination. And
Yeah.
then it's even worse how both of them go to management and ask to have this fixed, and it gets rejected.
Yeah.
So it's not even like a bad oversight. It's like they tried to fix it and they were denied.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just really horrible.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy because I know how things can be in the corporate world. Things take
Mm.
time, right? And they were hastily put into position, and then they have
Yeah.
to like create new contracts for their new roles. They were still on their old contracts that had whatever the salaries were from before, and that stuff can take time to update and make sure it's what it should be. But it's extremely embarrassing when they are in the spotlight of everything that they wouldn't speed up something like that. You know, I don't care if it's normal if it takes
And
a
like
month or two
rejecting it.
months, but
Yeah.
rejecting it
Yeah.
and not taking the time to fix it when the reason you're here in the first place is because of problems like this, extremely disappointing and extremely embarrassing.
Yeah, and it's just so tone deaf, and it's sort of ironic how Jen O'Neill said in her statement, like, oh, I'm inspired to make change. I think I can do it from the outside. And it's like her leaving and bringing to this sheer incompetence to light. Like,
Yeah.
this has, like, I think lit a fire under everyone's feet again, being like, wow, this
Mm.
is really messed up. So it's like
Yep.
the action of her leaving and just letting Blizzard's actions speak for themselves has really reopened the dialogue and gotten a
Yep.
lot of people upset about things. So
Yep.
it's like, oh, maybe that's what you meant by you can make more of an impact having change from the outside.
True.
Um, yeah,
Actually, true. Yeah, I guess she did manage to have a more of
yeah.
an impact now this way instead.
And like she's not even saying very much herself. Like she's just like the actions just speak for themselves. I just
Oh yeah,
I
she's
just
pretty
can't believe
silent. She's not saying
yeah,
much at all.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that, of course, with the original Wall Street Journal report highlighting that Bobby was, kind of a sketchy boss and how there was the pay inequality has led to a flurry of reactions, including, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo condemning him,
Oh yeah,
which
all the
is,
consoles. Yeah, it was Xbox
yeah,
and PlayStation first, and apparently Nintendo also jumped in and has now also uh, expressed being against what's happening.
yeah. And it's like Blizzard wants to be on good relations with these
Of
places
course.
if, you know, have Call of Duty distribution.
Yeah, Call
Um,
of Duty is huge for Activision. It's very important for them to keep those relationships.
yeah. Actually, it's just funny. 28 minutes ago, we posted an article that the even more news. The National Legal and Policy Center has written a letter demanding that Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick be removed from the Coca-Cola board of directors.
Oh,
And it's just, you know,
oof.
Under
Ouch.
your leadership, the Coca-Cola brand has been uh, diminished. Your hypocrisy has not gone unnoticed. And
Hypocrisy.
yeah,
Big words.
this is an opportunity to do the right thing. Um, so
Yeah.
this is again, it's like that other company that critiqued Blizzard. They do not own a lot of shares. This isn't like our top investor is upset with the company, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a public statement.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of waves.
Yeah.
Um, with that.
Absolutely. And we can also see because in the last few days, Activision stocks are falling even further, and are now
Rise.
almost at half of what it was back in the spring, because
Oh
it
wow.
reached around 100 in the spring, and it's down to 58 now. So it's
Oh
in the
wow.
50s. It's now in the
Oh boy.
50s. Oh
Yeah.
boy, indeed.
Oh, it's funny because if you look at the stock, it's like when it even dropped like a decent amount today when that
Yeah.
that news came out we just posted about.
Yeah,
um
yeah. I think it's actually today that it went below 60 for the first
yeah, it
time.
was at 60 yesterday and now it's at 58.
Yeah, it's been hovering between 60 and 70 for the past week or so, 2 weeks maybe, and now it went below 60.
Yeah. So also as a result of this, over uh uh when we first reported on it, over 500 Activision employees signed a petition declaring no confidence in the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And since the news was posted, the numbers exploded. Um, and this was basically saying
Mm.
they had no confidence in his leadership. Information that has come to light about his behaviors and practices runs counter to the culture and integrity we require of our leadership. And then someone made a change.org petition for fans to sign that wanted to help.
Yeah.
And it is over 30,000 people that have
It's
signed it.
30,000 now? Oh, wow.
Yeah, when we first posted on it, it had 1,000 signatures, and now it's
Yeah.
at 31,000.
Oh,
So,
wow.
uh, yeah.
I mean,
Um,
the waves are definitely moving. This will be really interesting because at first I never thought that Bobby would have to be removed. I thought he
mhm.
was kind of safe up there. And, blaming it all on Blizzard is going to work because there's so much evidence against the Blizzard people. Um, but the last few weeks is definitely starting to feel like he may need to leave. He
Yeah.
may not have a choice.
And the bad news kept coming in as Girls Who Code, which was a nonprofit that
Mm-hmm.
works with Activision Blizzard, they have announced that they have ended their partnership as a result of
Ended. Yeah.
everything going on.
Yep.
They started in 2018, but they've said that the allegations against Activision have crossed the line, and they say that their priority is to always stand up for women and other underrepresented groups in tech.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the news with Activision proves that their priorities are really misaligned with this company, and they cannot in good conscience continue to work with a company that is so antithetical to our values. And
Yeah.
fighting for diversity is more than just filling quotas. It's about empowering people, like safe environments, not harming people in your community. And they close by saying they still stand with solidarity with those at Activision that are
Yeah.
trying to fight for justice and accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty major blow for the company.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
It's
because
so
they were trying to,
embarrassing what happened with O'Neill.
yeah, like it underlies how Blizzard would just sort of like try to have like a token woman or like a token
Yep.
company to be like, oh look, we're doing everything great, and now it's like, no, you weren't. You were just like doing something really superficial, but not actually trying to make things a better place. So it's like this organization, I have to commend them for being like, no, we're not going to be used as a prop for Activision to be like, oh, but look, we
Yeah.
partnered with them. We're so good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I think it's just Blizzard might ignore their employees or fans, but when corporations start expressing disappointment and the stock market really falls, that
Exactly.
that can mean more.
Yeah. Other corporations, the stocks, ending of partnerships, being removed from your other board. It's
Yeah.
it does feel like everything is falling, and he's gonna have to leave and then lay low for a good few years, probably at least, to get out of this mess that he's caused himself. I just hope it happens sooner than later, so that people can, finally move on and improve things.
So Blizzard then snuck in a press release.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was like Monday night or something at a really strange hour. And they announced a workplace responsibility committee to oversee the company's progress to successfully implement new policies to improve workplace culture and decrease harassment and discrimination.
Mm.
Um, Ironically, it was chaired by their board members. So it's like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Nice.
um,
Those who don't
yeah,
want him gone.
yeah. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and they also vaguely outlined steps taken so far to address workplace culture, which this committee will oversee moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think they knew that this statement was a little wishy-washy, so they kind of try to
Mm-hmm.
bury it before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
They put this news when people were on when they gave the employees the week off, and they dropped this news when people were off work. So maybe they were concerned that if it had a bad reaction, if they're at home, the employees can't protest in front of the office
Yeah.
if they're all sent to be on vacation. um but yeah, interesting how they snuck that in.
Mm-hmm.
And then for our final bit of news, we can end on maybe a sort of positive note. Bobby has told the Wall Street Journal that he had a series of internal town hall meetings with executives and managers across Activision, and he said in a meeting he didn't say that he was going to step down, but he left the possibility open that he would if misconduct issues across the company weren't fixed
Yeah.
with speed.
Yeah.
Um, so everyone was like, "Oh, like, please," like,
Yeah. Please
he's
just
saying that he
leave.
would, yeah.
Got cat hair all over my
Uh,
face. Mm-hmm.
oh. Um,
Because also, what
but
does
yeah.
good speed mean? Like, is there a
So I
last
think it
date?
means. I mean, he didn't give a time estimate, but I imagine reading between the lines, if he's talking to top people, it's uh, if stocks keep going down and I can't fix this, like if stuff keeps
Yeah.
getting worse now, I will consider leaving.
Yeah.
Um, which sounds great, but then you have to remember that the board is standing by him,
Yeah.
and even though other people have been told to leave for being bad managers in the past, they've said that they're not going to investigate him.
Yeah.
So it's like he's still shielded, and it's kind of like almost arrogant, being like, "Oh yeah, I might step down if things don't get better." And it's like, well, you're still being like, he still is like has this double standard
Mm-hmm.
where other people that
Do bad need to be
oversaw things
removed.
poorly or look the other way would just
Yeah.
leave. So he's sort of like, flexing his independence, like, "Oh well, I
Mm-hmm.
might leave," and it's like, well, other people that acted like you are already being investigated.
Yeah.
Um, so this was also came to light last week with the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just I think that if mounting pressure happens, like Girls Who Code took a stand, this letter to Coca-Cola came out afterwards.
Yep.
I think
All the
his statement
consoles.
might, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think his statement might like inspire people to be more, or corporations to be
Pushing.
more vocal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, also, keep in mind that he uh he has the minimum salary that he can have this year, so he's
Yeah,
trying to do some things to placate people, but I think after that shocking Wall Street Journal report, it's really hard to get any sort of goodwill or sense of
absolutely.
assurance from him if he has special treatment.
And also
And
the
before the special
current
treatment,
situation
he
of
had like,
co-leader leaving.
yeah,
It's really embarrassing.
like with all these statements he's saying, all these vague 10 p.m. Drops, no one has addressed the elephant in the room of we denied our co-lead equal pay. Like
Yeah,
no one has
yeah,
addressed that. Like,
yeah. In the middle of all of this, and you still managed to do that part wrong. You know,
yeah, and it's like
it's
it's
pretty
not going
embarrassing.
away.
Mm-hmm.
Like like corporations are really upset by this. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think when Girls Who Code and Nintendo and PlayStation and Xbox are
Mm-hmm.
all critiquing him, it's like, yeah, it's not good. Yeah, and he's just like, oh, things keep
Yeah.
getting worse, and it's like, well, how can it get worse? Like all these companies are very upset with you.
Exactly. I mean, the stocks are going lower, so
Yeah,
there's that.
yeah.
When did he make his statement of if things don't improve?
This was reported in a Wall Street Journal article from the
The part
21st.
the part where he said he will step down if things don't improve.
Oh, that was the November 21st.
Okay, so it's
So
been
like
like
a
10
week ago.
days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, and things are definitely going down. Stocks are record low since
Yeah.
5 years or something. So I guess we'll see
Yeah.
what that's going to mean. And
Yeah.
I think that actually covers everything that we wanted to talk about as well. So we did manage to speed through those news
Yeah, I
a
mean
bit
it's like
more.
really rough to talk about because like there's just so much of it, but it's all the same and it's just like, oh, things got worse in a way that sounds like it's from a very depressing movie, you know.
Yep, yep.
Um
It's like
and it's
you
like,
think it
what
can't
else
get worse, and
there's
there's like a new piece of news.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, we still I feel like this is just gonna keep going until Christmas break. Like there's gonna be
yeah.
something new every week.
Something new tomorrow, and then something new the day after
Yeah.
that. But hopefully, something new soon will be that he gives up his spot and just steps
Yeah.
down.
Or
I
like if
think it's
Blizzard
time.
announces holiday bonuses and they're not very good, I'm sure that will lead to more chaos.
Yeah,
Especially since last year there was the whole, oh, we thought we'd do better with the pandemic and
yeah.
performance was up, but next year is the
Mm-hmm.
big year with Diablo, so um you might see some
Mm-hmm.
people unhappy or protesting if that
Mm-hmm.
if things fall through with that as
Yep.
well.
My cat is sitting here on the table, having
Aw, hello,
ha-
cat.
having a nap.
I don't know where Bright Paw is. I think he's in a chair over there, but he was very active earlier in the show.
Yeah, yeah, he was.
So I
She's
think
like,
that
yeah,
about wraps it up. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think so too. I think
Yeah.
I was gonna say she's probably wondering like, oh, can we go to bed now, human mom?
Yeah.
She's so
That's
tired. Just.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is everything that we wanted to cover for today. And as usual, we will cover whatever else happens between now and the next show. And hopefully, we will find less bad news and some more positive moving forward news. I think that's what we all deserve at this point because it feels like it keeps getting worse and worse all the time.
Um
And also,
so yeah.
it's going to be a quick reminder. The Mage Tower is going to be here soon as
Oh
well.
yeah. We will have guides for that up very shortly. We've actually been releasing some prep guides, like if you wanted to get old gear with sockets, because
Mhm.
that's like, more powerful
Mhm.
for time walking. We have some prep gear guides up for that, and we will have the class specific tips up very soon
Mhm.
as well.
Mhm. Yep. So you can check those out if you want to consider doing those, as there is a new Druid skin and also a new mount to collect from that. So it can be
Yeah.
quite nice for any collectors. And yeah, I think that's about it. thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll be back again next week. We do these shows always live here on Twitch, but we also do make sure to upload them onto YouTube. So if there's anything that you guys want to listen to again or see again, you can always check it out on YouTube in case you missed anything. And we'll be back again next week. Bye bye, everyone. Bye bye. Nice chanting in the chat. Bye, everyone.